A square peg in a square pattern. Presented by David R. Wood. A square peg in a square pattern. Quote, we meet with this admission in the writings of almost every experienced naturalist, or as Milne Edwards has well expressed it, nature is prodigal in variety, but niggard in innovation. Why, on the theory of creation, should there be so much variety and so little real novelty? End quote. Charles Darwin, On the Origin of Species. The concept of artificial selection has always been a, quote, square peg, end quote, in the, quote, pattern of round holes, end quote, that is, natural evolution. It is self-evident once considered critically. It is an artificial concept, i.e. a square, in a pattern of natural concepts, i.e. round holes. It is common sense that tells us the concept of artificial selection just doesn't really belong. Next, ponder Darwin's above quote regarding the lack of novelty and the products of natural evolution. Darwin repeatedly considered this thought throughout his book. He thought the point worth repeating while expressing the theory that he had labored to develop for over 2 decades. Now consider, we are a, quote, square peg in Earth's evolutionary history. Our consciousness and imagination are truly novel, well, as far as we know, to the history of this planet. However, we are generally operating in the same evolutionary conditions and competitive dynamics as all other natural species that have come before us. No different than all the natural species of crab-like forms that have existed in Earth's history. Why wouldn't we be subjected to and shaped by the same evolutionary forces as all other species such as the crab? It is self-evident that we would, given that we exist on the same planet. Now step back and really look at our history and our modern reality, not as humans, but as the species Homo sapiens among all other species existing on Earth today. Are the artificial productions of our modern world really that novel? Or do these artificial productions resemble the natural productions all around us? Ponder that for a moment and see if your imagination can pattern match natural productions to our artificial productions. For what is a submarine if not an artificial whale? What is a plane if not an artificial bird? What is a car if not an artificial horse? What is a sword if not an artificial rhino's horn? What is a cell phone communication if not a whale's song? We have been artificially reproducing and describing variations of the natural world since we gained consciousness and imagination. There is nothing else to reproduce or describe. Evolutionary history, both artificial and natural, is a repetition of the same patterns and varied forms. This means everything you see today, including artificial adaptations produced by Homo sapiens, is a variation of past evolutionary realities. Homo sapiens' artificial adaptations must be a variation. The one pattern has repeated for billions of years. The pattern that is comprised of the laws of nature and physics, evolution and gravity, one could say. On Earth, this one single pattern is the only game in town. By this logic, why would the process by which we produce these artificial adaptations be entirely original? Why wouldn't we simply adapt something that had already existed in the same environment and competitive dynamics for billions of years? An existent process repeatedly proven throughout Earth's history to effectively produce new things. The answer is we would, and we have. It is the simple answer to that question, which is the truth which has eluded philosophers and scientists throughout human history. The simple truth is that when Homo sapiens gained the natural adaptation of imagination, it brought into existence a second evolutionary pattern, a variation of the first natural evolutionary pattern, which Homo sapiens has repeatedly been using to produce all artificial things you now use every day in your life. Artificial evolution.